the set. It's go time.
Welcome, everyone. I'm retired Police Chief Lauren Cole. I was a narcotics detective and dual-purpose police canine handler during my career in law enforcement. I'm bringing you real-life stories from the people who lived them, in their own words. Today, I talk with Police Sgt Sean Uhlich about the attempted rescue of a family. That rescue turned tragic during heavy flooding in Southwest Washington earlier this year in 2022. We will show you never before aired video of that event as Sean recounts that very scary night. That night required an ambulance and life flight for Sean and his partner. A night that found him unconscious, upside down in the rising floodwaters of the Chehalis River with a dislocated shoulder. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel, hit the bell for notifications of upcoming videos, and share with your friends. Don't forget about my sponsor, MinutemenCoffee.com. Let's do what we do.
So January of this last year, we had some pretty major flooding here in Southwest Washington. The agency I work for, it's a traditional thing. It happens quite often. And so when that happens, we are surrounded by water. We're basically cut off from anybody getting to us. You can't drive any of the roads. And so what we do is we will shut down, all the major businesses, send everybody home that doesn't need to be here. We'll just leave a skeleton crew to cook for the people that are still here. Myself, one of the other patrol officers, and one of the other sergeants, who is our boat operator, volunteered to stay. So we, got 4 or 5 days worth of gear, and they put us up in one of our hotels. And our job was to just respond to calls for service. We have the boat if needed. The water started rising, and I was working. We just kind of took turns doing our thing, and as the day progressed, basically I was looking at flood gauges, checking roads, just kind of giving updates to our emergency management department and police chief as to what was happening. As it got dark, and as the day progressed, probably I don't know, 2/3 of the way through the daylight hours, we were pretty much cut off. The water had risen enough where you couldn't drive any of the roads, so we were pretty much an island. As the day progressed, there's traditional areas that the houses, and so like I said, we've done this many years. We started getting reports from one of the houses that, hey, the water's getting pretty close. It's still occupied. So we started doing preliminary planning. Maybe if we need to let the boat, talking to the neighboring county, their boat rescue team, that kind of stuff, coordinating things. And so hour and a half later, they call back like, hey, the water's coming in the house. We need to get out of here. Okay. So,
and what time was this in the middle of the night? This was daytime?
Yeah, I think when the accident happened, it was right around midnight, I think, if I remember correctly.
Okay. So dark in southwestern Washington.
Yeah. Stormy, rainy, all that.
Yeah.
So the rescue was supposed to be basically, we're surrounded by water. There's a portion of highway that was still drivable if you went west from us. And then south of the highways where this house was floated. So what was going to happen is the neighboring agency was going to drive on the freeway, launch their boat from the freeway, pick this family up from their flooding house, drive them to us, and we were going to drive our fan boat, which, if you're familiar, like with the Everglades, it's got the big propeller on the back, that kind of thing. We have one of those. Drive our fan boat to the edge of the flood, transfer the family to us, and then we were going to take them to our hotel and put them up for the night. So like I said, we got the call, okay, it's time to go. We coordinated with the other agency. They got their stuff in progress and said, okay. So basically there's a big long road that accesses our area, is all flooded. And so we launched the boat, we get ready to go. And so I'm stripped down my gear, pretty much just a pistol belt. I'm wearing a float coat. I've got my radio in the vest pocket. I'm wearing protective goggles, a stocking cap because it's kind of cold, ear protection. So we launched the boat, and one of the main entrances to our patrol area is under probably 4 feet of water. So I've got my cell phone and I'm just recording as we go because it would be cool to see later, and we can. And I've been taking pictures throughout the day for documentation and stuff. And we continue down the road, and we get to the main highway where we're going to turn west, and we're going to go down the highway to meet the other agency. There's a large cul-de-sac which is underwater. There's a car that's flooded out there, and as soon as we turn west or left, we can see that there's a current, and it's not a little current, it's quite a bit of a current. I don't know if you know anything about fan boats. Go ahead.
And this is it at night. Just to remind everybody, this is at night. You can't see anything except where your lights are shining at the time, right?
Right. Well, there is a gas station right there that's giving off a little bit of an ambient light. The lights were still on at the gas station, but yeah, it's dark. I mean, we had no real indication until we started making that corner. Like, oh, here we go.
So pretty strong current.
Yeah, very strong. I didn't realize at the time, but on either side of the highway, it's, there's a natural channel there that's 20 feet deep probably. So how deep the water was coming over the freeway at that time, I'm not sure, but it was pretty strong. And if you know anything about fan boats, there's a little bit of a lag, right? They steer from the back. So
Don Amon here, president and founder of Minuteman Coffee. Want to welcome you to the coffee revolution. We may not be everybody's cup of tea, but we are the coffee for we the people. Come join this coffee revolution, see what all the hype is about, and help us restore the republic.
Sergeant that's with me, he notices this obviously and starts powering up. Well, there's a road sign, a steel road sign, just like they would be in the middle of the freeway. And we're not going to make it around because the current's too strong. And, instead of going around the up current side of it, we're not going to make it. So he lets off the gas. The current pushes us past where the sign is, and, he puts the power to it, and it's just not enough. The current's too strong. And what happens is it slams us into the guardrail. And I'm thinking at that point, we're probably going to go over. But he does an amazing job, puts the power to it. He gets us off, and we're just, the boat's like this, and I'm holding on to the sides because I'm thinking that we're going to go over. He gets us off the guardrail, and because it steers from the back, he's trying to go away from it. So it shoots us across the freeway. And as he's correcting it, the back end hits the guardrail again, and we are under full power, which just shoots the back end of the boat, which changes our nose, and full power again, launches us off the side of the road, and we hit a tree. We run over some mailboxes, hit a tree. I'm sitting in a bench seat on the front of the boat, and there's a little bit of a ramp, at the front, because you can drive those things anywhere, and it just launches me straight off the front of the boat. What happened is, and when I launched out, I lost my radio, I lost my phone, it hit my knees. My knees hit on the front of the boat, and I ended up hitting a chain link fence. I don't know, you probably can't see them, but I had some cool scars from the chain link when I hit it. I actually split the chain link fence probably, 2 or 3 feet down because I hit it so hard.
Now, you split a chain link fence with your head.
I guess, yeah.
It's a good thing that most cops are pretty hard-headed, right?
I think luckily for me, I didn't hit it straight on. I think what happened is when my knees hit, it kind of flipped me up. So I kind of hit it at an angle, I think. And so my body, but yeah, we just go straight off the road. I would have been essentially in some farmhouse's front yard if there wouldn't have been a fence there, but everything's flooded, and luckily for me, I was only in just under waist deep water. We weren't in the current, luckily, at that point.
Oh, it launched you out of the current?
Yeah. The boat, we made it past the main current part before we actually lost control and hit the tree. And so, it launched me out of the boat. When I came to, I was upside down underwater, and, I'm trying to stand up, and what had happened is somehow, I don't know if I grabbed the boat or when I hit the fence or whatever, but I had dislocated my right shoulder. And when I hit my knees, I had some pretty good cuts, cut my knees open pretty good. And so I wake up pretty much underwater, and I'm trying to stand up. And as soon as I put pressure on my right arm, I had dislocated my left shoulder many times, so I knew exactly what it was. Okay, now I have a dislocated shoulder, and I kind of come out of the water shaking my head, and I'm yelling for the other sergeant, I think mostly because I wanted his help, but it quickly came obvious that he was unconscious. The boat, he was in an elevated position. There is a windshield, metal framed windshield, and I guess I was fortunate. I launched out, but he full force just right into the console and the windshield. So he was unconscious. He had some pretty significant facial injuries, missing teeth, palate was broken, his eye was crushed. And he had a obvious ankle fracture. His ankle was pretty much 90 degrees. So I kind of shook the cobwebs out a little bit and was able to make my way back over the boat, and he was out. I lost my radio. The radio on the boat, of course, before we left, wasn't working. I don't know where his radio was. I lost my radio, my phone. And in that process, he's kind of started to come to a little bit. And I got him to communicate enough that I could figure out that he had a phone in his back pocket. So I got the phone from him while I'm standing outside the boat there. And he's trying to give me the PIN to get into this phone. And, like I said, it rung my bell pretty good, so I wasn't thinking. And I'm trying this code, and it's not working. And I'm trying it, it's not working. And then I finally remember that you can just make a 911 call, emergency calls without it. So I get a hold of dispatch in Grays Harbor, and, I'm telling them what's happened. And we're going through that whole process. And I get transferred to State Patrol. And I'm thinking that I'm in the middle of this field, floodwaters. I have no idea that I couldn't see on the other side of the boat. And so we're like 15, 20 feet from the road. I could have just walked over to the road. I didn't realize it. So I'm telling them, bring Coast Guard, don't send anybody else because it's too dangerous, that kind of stuff, So that process started.
It's understandable that you're not really thinking clearly. You just got launched out of an airboat and broke through a chain link fence with your body.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of understandable. So yeah, go ahead.
So, and during this time, I'm trying to take care of the other officer. He's just talking to me, and he's obviously had a pretty traumatic head injury. He ended up being in a coma, and they life flighted him from the scene. But I'm trying to talk to him, and he's repeating himself over and over again and asking what happened. And like I said, I've dislocated this shoulder, and I've done it enough times that if I just get it just right and pull it, I can get it back in. And I'm trying to get this one back in. I'm holding on to the rail, and I'm pulling as hard as I can, and I just can't do it. It hurt too bad, and I couldn't get it back in. So the rescue process has kind of started that way. My poor wife, I'm going to give her a shout out. She did a fabulous job. She took great care of me afterwards, but everything's on Facebook. I didn't want her to find out because she knows what I'm doing. So if it gets out on Facebook, she's going to know it's me. So I got to back up. So I'm standing there, and I'm dealing with the other officer, and I keep hearing a radio someplace, and it doesn't click at first. And then I hear the radio again. Well, what had happened is when I launched out of the boat, there's that ramp on the front. My cell phone and my radio hit that ramp, and it slid down underneath the seat. So I dig around in there, and I find my radio, I find my cell phone, and that way I can talk to people, through dispatch, and I get the rescue underway, and we've got all the people coming. So go back to my wife. I don't want her to find out on Facebook or something. So I just call. It's late. She doesn't answer the phone. So I just leave a quick message. Hey, babe, we've been in a boating accident. We're kind of messed up here pretty good, but I'll get a hold of you when I can later. I'm okay. Well, I didn't hit end. So I go back to try and put my shoulder in again, and I'm screaming. It hurts. I'm not having a good time. And she's hearing all this on a voicemail. The aid crew finally shows up very quickly. And so they're dealing with me, and, it hurts. So they're moving me around, and my knee hurts, my head hurts, and I'm making all kinds of noises that you probably don't want your wife to hear. And she gets this on a voicemail. She finally wakes up and hears this, which I did. Yeah. She wasn't very happy about later, but.
Yeah, I can imagine. I know my wife, when I was a police officer, she loved to listen to the scanner.
Yeah.
On a scanner on the radio, you're only getting part of what's going on, and you can tell by somebody's voice whether things are okay or things are not okay. And
Sure.
then you don't hear any more radio traffic for a while. it creates a lot of anxiety. So for like 10 minutes, you had left this voicemail for your wife of you screaming in pain, right? In the middle of the darkness by yourself, pretty much.
Yeah, and she could hear the aid crew, load me on and helping me, and we're talking to the other officer. She's hearing all of this. So yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I can imagine the stress. I mean, it's police work is not only stressful for the officers, but the families. The families, they should get a gold medal for even being in the family of a police officer a lot of times, I think.
Yeah.
So the rescue teams all showed up, and then what happened?
Yeah, so they had been staged to help this other family just in case, good planning. So they got there fairly quickly once they figured out what happened. And so the other officer, he was a little bit of a mess. I was pretty easy. I was mobile still. I was able to move myself. So I walked over and I got in an ambulance pretty much. They put me in a chair and wheeled me in. But I was transported to a local hospital, cleaned the big hole out my knee and stitched me all up and knocked me out so they could put my shoulder back in. But other than that, I got pretty lucky. I felt like I had been hit by a Mack truck the next day. The other officer, he ended up being life flighted. He was put in a coma for a while. He's still undergoing surgeries, and it's been a long road for him. He's had a tough go, but he's progressing, which is good.
Yeah, well, that's good to hear. Police officers go through a lot of stuff, put their own lives in danger, to go save other people. And that I think is what most normal people anyway love about the police and fire and rescue, EMS. Got a job to do and we do it,
Sure. Yeah.
So, well, we hope that other officer, I mean, this happened earlier this year, correct?
Right. That was January.
Yeah. Okay. So he's still recovering and
he's doing pretty good. Just a lot of residual. He's going to have some stuff that's just going to take a while to get fixed, but
yeah. Well, that's good to hear.
Yep.
So yeah, all the best to him and you. Glad that you're back and doing what you love to do.
A little physical therapy, a little bit of that, but we're going at it. I'm back to patrol again, so
that's awesome. Well, Sean, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to everybody, tell your stories, and you be safe out there, okay?
Okay, I appreciate you having me.
Everybody loves police and what they do. Well, 99% of the people, there's some crazies out there that want to defund the police all the time, but you're a hero, and the police officers all across this country are heroes. So thank you for sharing this with us, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, appreciate it.
Please subscribe to my channel and hit the bell to be notified when I post future videos.